morning, community. Brennan here again. So good to be with you one more time. We're going to jump right in. We're going to be in the book of Luke, chapter 9, verses 23 through 25. Join me there. It's a challenging passage. This is gonna kind of shake us up a little bit, I think. So, then he said to them all, "Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will save it. What good is it for someone to gain the whole world and yet lose or forfeit their very soul?" Whew. I'm not gonna lie. This verse has been resonating. I actually listened to a sermon, this great sermon from a church in Portland. The title of it was on this passage. The title of it was "God is Dead, You're Next," and he talked about the crucifixion, and the whole thing is, hey, we serve a God who died, right? God is dead, and he's kind of playing off that, kind of famous Nietzsche quote, God is dead and you're next. Like, God died and he's calling you to die, which is completely opposite of what we like to think about. We try to keep death as far and as away from our minds as possible, but you can't deny that the main thrust of the gospel is death, right? And now it's a beautiful kind of death, because out of this death we get life, right? Jesus not only died, but he was the first fruits of death, but also the first fruits of resurrection, and that's great. But to experience resurrection, to experience new life, death is a part of it. Death is the precursor to new life and the Christian life and the Christian faith. And that's scary. I think it's kind of crazy looking at this passage in context. This is, we get to see in verses prior to what Jesus says. Right now, Jesus has he's kind of got a lot of momentum behind him. If you look throughout Jesus' kind of ministry, it's kind of up and down. Sometimes he purposely is trying to get away from, like, he gathers this large crowd. Sometimes he's kind of purposely trying to get away from them. Sometimes he says something or does something unpopular. Right obviously near the end of his life, he's got this huge crowd that welcomes him into Jerusalem, but then they all leave him and desert him as he's going to be hung as a criminal. But in this kind of portion of his Jesus ministry, Jesus got a big crowd, right? He's got a big following, and what is his teaching? He kind of turns to the crowd, right? He says he turns to them and said, "Dude, like, you want to follow me? You got to die." It's almost as if he's like looking at this big crowd and he's like, "All right, like, time to get serious." I think that's a call for us believers. I think every day to kind of be looking at ourselves and say, is that the Christianity I'm living? The kind where I am taking up my cross daily. And right, let's remember, the cross is not a pretty thing, right? We have to kind of remove ourselves from the way that we use the cross today, and this kind of, it's a nice graphic symbol. It's cool to put on hoodies and tees and necklaces and all this kind of stuff. But let's remember that the cross was gory, was shameful. It wasn't how we see in paintings today, where Jesus was covered and he was maybe beaten and a little bloody, but overall kind of good looking. No, like, he would have been beaten to a pulp beforehand, probably unrecognizable really, and completely naked, stripped, probably gasping for breath. So the cross is not a fun, pretty thing, and there's beauty behind it, right? Because again, we get to know the totality of the story, and that through that cross and then through the resurrection, that we are offered new life, and that we get to escape death. Finally, but we're still called to come and die now. It's such a powerful line that Jesus gives us. Whoever wants to save his life will lose it, and whoever wants to lose his life for me will find it, right? Such a powerful such a powerful line in a culture that it just seems like we're trying to save our lives. Like we're trying to find something, to find meaning, to find value. What do these things mean? And Jesus says, no, it's not in like trying to grasp and seek and gain and hoard and establish yourself that you're going to find your life. But it's in losing. It's in giving it up to me and for me that you will find new life. So it's kind of a sobering thing, but it's also, it should be an encouraging thing. It should, I don't know, for me, it in some ways gives a breath of relief, because I don't know about you, but I there's a lot that I strive for every day to try to find value and meaning that just doesn't add up. And so there's a part of it that says, it's just nice that says, oh, like, I don't have to try to gain and get. Instead, I can just give up. And I can give up myself to others, to God. And in that, I will find true life. So good to be with you guys today.